Yes, good morning people, we're back. I hope you're all fueled nicely on coffee, croissants and pastries. It's been an exciting first morning. So here we are. We have 2 sessions left before the lunch break on this marvellous catwalk stage. We're back in here at the end of the day, but we've had some great conversations, from authenticity to being brave, to finding your everyday heroes, to how you really utilize video in the mobile space. And one of the things that came out was, how do you interact with consumers? How do you understand their needs of where they are at the right time in the right place and provide them with the correct advertising that they're not going to block or they're not going to turn away? So to take us further into that path, we've got a great conversation to bring on stage. The moderator of this conversation last year, the poor guy, brought his client who is in the front this year. He didn't have a voice, so thankfully this year, the client that's coming on stage has a voice, which is great, yes. So without further ado, let's welcome to the stage Graham Brown, CEO of MediaSense, and Ian Cairns, Performance Global Marketing Director for Just Eat.
Didn't fancy the walking up and down the catwalk, did you?
No. Oh, Lord.
Right. Hello, everybody.
So this feels natural.
It is, isn't it? So, wanted to start off with, Ian, you and I have worked together for the last few months, but before that, you obviously you were with EasyJet, and before that, you were in the agency world. So, over the last few months, your experience of managing a global agency pitch, I'm quite interested that since you worked in an agency 7 years ago, what do you think has changed in the agency world, for better or for worse?
Yeah, so I think there's loads of positives, actually. So I was really impressed with the lack of deference, actually, and the amount of challenge that we got from the agencies during the pitch. And I think when I was at OMD, my time in agencies, I think we were a little bit more deferential, actually, with our clients, and we're a little bit more sort of hesitant about challenging.
Probably
and we got
giving them loads of shit all the time.
May have been. We got a lot of really, really healthy challenge, and it felt like a bit more of a kind of consultancy sort of relationship with some of the agencies that we spoke to. I think this will sound quite weird. The thing that felt like it had gone backwards a bit was actually sort of media planning skills. And so we got lots of really, really fantastic kind of strategic advice and lots of clearly really, really smart people on the kind of the data side. But it just felt like that bit in the middle of actually media planning, talking about kind of coverage and frequency and flighting and all that kind of good stuff, that wasn't quite as present as we thought it would be. So, and I'm not sure whether that was kind of reticence on the part of the agencies. They didn't think that was kind of a fashionable thing to talk to a tech company about. But obviously, we were looking for sort of media planning and buying skills. That's why we were doing a media pitch. So that was the bit that I felt it changed a bit. But obviously, we've appointed the agency that I think will do a really good job for us.
Cool. So one of the things that we talked about quite a lot during that process, and something that's really front of mind for many advertisers right now, is agile operating models. Everybody's talking about agile operating models. What's one person's agility is another person's slow, and vice versa. What does agility mean for a tech brand like Just Eat? And what was it you were looking for? And what's the expectation amongst agency when we talk about agility, flexibility?
Well, if I describe a bit about how Just Eat works, and there are a couple of other tech kind of companies in here, they'll probably kind of, probably kind of resonate. So I guess kind of three things I think would characterize kind of what we see as agile. So the first is kind of collaboration across teams and departments. So this kind of squad way of working. We're working on a project at the moment with the UK team where it's daily huddles for a quarter of an hour every morning, 9 o'clock, between the data, tech, analyst, engineering teams, product teams, marketing teams, commercial guy, finance, just in a room sorting out what we're going to do that day. So there's something about bringing teams of people together and shortening the time frames of work delivery, like really quite radically into what are we going to deliver today. And that is quite a different way of working to what I experienced at EasyJet or in the media agency side. So something about kind of collaboration and then having a really clear process of making decisions, which sometimes in those sort of environments, decision making can get a bit lost. So we're trying to introduce this system called Rapids, which we got from Bain Consulting a couple of years ago when I worked at EasyJet. We had them in for a project, and it basically just really focuses down on the D, or the decision maker, and allocates people kind of tasks. And if you don't have a right of veto, you're not an A, you're not an agree. You've only got an input, so thanks very much, but if we want to ignore you, we can, sort of thing. So we're just trying to be a bit more kind of brutal about who makes decisions so we can kind of speed things up. And then I guess the second bit is just understanding and appreciating that things don't need to be like really perfect for it to launch. So we're a pretty kind of scrappy, informal, not particularly sort of slick organization on the marketing side of things. And so actually just doing things really quickly, just getting stuff out and then figuring out if it works or not, pulling back, rolling back stuff if it doesn't work, relaunching again, that's sort of the rhythm of what we do. And everything really is all about just, the third thing is just getting stuff done super quickly. Like in our sector, sort of weeks is the new year's sort of thing. It's like everything needs to be done like incredibly quickly, otherwise you just lose, basically. So it's all about speed. So I don't think it's not for me to sort of describe how an agency needs to work to kind of work with us, but those are kind of the characteristics of Just Eat, and I guess quite a lot of tech-based companies. So we just need to figure out how, or media agencies need to figure out how to kind of work with that kind of rhythm. And through that's the thing that we were looking for in the pitch process, and the reason we spent so much time with the pitching agencies was to just kind of figure out whether culturally they could kind of keep up, I guess.
And that's the biggest challenge for them, is keeping up with the likes of a company where your whole motto is, we were just talking about it earlier, GSD, get shit done and get it done fast, and not fearing favor. Clearly you've made your appointment, but given your experience, do you think that the industry on the agency side is actually able to keep up?
Clearly the network we chose in the NUM were the ones that we felt best able to do that, and that was all down to the people that we met and the consistency of how they showed up in all of our markets around the world in all of the kind of sessions we had with them. And so I think that consistency bit is quite important. And that for me comes down to the importance of brand, and the agencies that we really liked in this process were the ones that felt like they had a top-down kind of view of how their agency brands showed up in every market, and that consistency kind of really kind of came through. And that's what you kind of, as a client, that's what I want to buy into, is a way of doing things, and feeling confident that people can work in pretty much the same way, same models kind of globally.
Well, I'm going to move on for a second, if I may, because on the screen people can see the new Media 2020, which we've just launched today. But our previous one, when we did in 2017, when we launched it, we had a banking client and also a .com business. And one of them, it was Lloyds Banking, saying we're brilliant at managing the top of the funnel, and then eBay was saying we're brilliant at managing the bottom of the funnel. Do you think that? How is that challenge? How are you addressing that challenge? This whole debate about performance marketing, is it just the crack cocaine of businesses that you just keep on driving performance, and eventually it just plateaus out?
There's not really I don't think there's a division in most marketers' minds between the two things. You just need to kind of do it all at once, and the skill. And ultimately, your success is based on how quickly you can flick from one mode to the other and how you kind of blend it. Like every day is a spectrum of those activities, and you pull different levers depending on what you need to do. We're a FTSE 100 company, and so we've got a cadence of quarterly city reporting that we need to kind of keep up with. Other businesses who are private, have their own kind of cadence based on when the money's going to run out or the next tranche of money's going to come in. So you can't kind of ignore that. But at the same time, you need to kind of build and kind of vision out for the future. But actually, do you know what? I don't mind a bit of short-term kind of action, actually.
Weeks is the new year's.
It's a really motivational way of bringing teams together and like cutting through a lot of bureaucratic sort of nonsense. Actually, if you've got a bit of a burning platform and you've got something you need to sort out super quick, actually, if you sort out very quickly decisions that you need to make, and you stop doing stuff. And there's some quote from someone famous, I can't quite remember who said it, about sort of strategy is the art of knowing what not to do. And I think that's kind of really relevant, actually. So oddly enough, I think sometimes short-term kind of crises or issues can really galvanize a team of people, and it can throw out a load of really good stuff that you can then adopt for kind of longer-term planning. So and from the performance marketing bit, my role is about kind of building kind of infrastructure for local teams. So it's much more of a kind of a longer term, building a great CRM platform, building, getting a great agency network, that kind of thing. So it's not really a crack cocaine sort of thing, I think.
So it's not an either or. I mean, because
No.
in our latest iteration, people are saying we've got to rein back in on performance marketing. We've got to focus on brand building. It's all gone the wrong way. Everyone's looking at the bottom of the funnel.
Yeah, listen, if you were to sort of gun to head, I'm a massive believer in the power of brands, and that customers make decisions irrationally and emotionally. So whether, from working with some brilliant brands at OMD like McDonald's, or spending a lot of time doing marketing at EasyJet, my sort of experience has been, if you invest in your brand, by which, it doesn't necessarily mean just advertising, but your app, your customer services, your plane liveries, that has massive halo benefit on all your kind of stuff at the kind of bottom end of the funnel.
It's interesting because one of this ability to have this requirement for agility and flexibility and high level of performance marketing is, to come back to it, I'm afraid, because I know it's going to come up a lot over the last over today and tomorrow, is insourcing. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people sort of say, well, the only way to be successful is in these areas, to have that, to achieve all those attributes, is we have to insource. Mm-hmm. Now, Just Eat is doing that. Why do brands like Just Eat and others, particularly Just Eat, which is a tech company, why do you insource?
So this probably won't endear me to the agency people in the room, but if you're sitting down with a CFO of any kind of company, I guess, but particularly, I guess, a FTSE one, advertising and the associated kind of services is just another business process, like your customer services or your financial, back office, or your HR function, or we outsource our company secretary function, for example. So I think agencies possibly just need to understand, from a customer kind of client perspective, it's just like that's the new normal now. Just kind of, and we'll make decisions based on really rational, just looking at it and saying, does this make sense for us at this time to do it ourselves? And maybe that will change in a year or so's time. And that's the way we work with our call center operations, or, as I said, some of our back office functions. And that's just sort of the reality. It's kind of, and I guess I'm not here to tell agencies how to kind of operate in that world, but they just, I guess, going to have to think about how to deal with clients who have that kind of mentality.
It's a pretty fundamental change in the model, isn't it, for them to accommodate?
Yeah, and it's weird. I can imagine if I was still working in OMD, it would feel really, in an agency world, it would feel really fundamental. I guess what I just say on the client side, it's not really a big thing. It's not a thing at all. It's just, does this make sense?
It just is.
So we're in the process of in-housing all of our paid search stuff around the world, which is currently a mixture of agencies and in-house. And honestly, the reason I didn't come into this role 6 months ago with the intention or the agenda of kind of doing it, but when you look at it, just kind of makes sense.
Yeah,
we can save £500,000, and honestly, we've got 700 incredibly talented, bright digital engineers, tech engineers in our company, and they've built fantastic search marketing technology that, it sounds really super arrogant, and it's not meant to come across that way, but I think we're probably better at PPC than agencies. But we're really, really fortunate because of the sector we work in and the kind of talent that we attract and the position we are in. We've got a cool office in Farringdon and all that kind of stuff. If I was doing this role in another company in a different location, I probably wouldn't be able to. And at EasyJet, we looked at it and it wasn't possible to get the kind of talent that we needed 20 minutes, into up the train line to London Luton Airport.
What do you mean they didn't want to go to Luton? You surprised me.
London Luton, North London's premier airport. You just have to, I guess, again, it's just not a blanket approach. I just think it's going to be a kind of, every client will just make a rational decision as they would do with any other kind of business process.
But you're very fortunate, as you say. You're in Farringdon. You've got this very sexy brand. You can attract talent. One of the other things that came up in our recent study was just the dearth of talent, and everybody's competing for it. The media agencies, the platform owners, the media owners, the tech companies. Who has this? Who's responsible for nurturing talent? And because there just isn't enough of it to go around. Every client we work with, every pitch we ever do, it's all about talent and capabilities.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I guess. So if I think about what we do, so the big thing, stock always helps. So if you have a,
and if it's going up, it's even better.
That's always nice. Yeah. If you've got a stake in the company, that makes, in my experience, a massive difference. And I'm not sure how common that is in the kind of the agency world, and on the client side, it seems to be far more common. And that really does, when you have long-term incentive plans, and part of your remuneration is in the stock of the company, it makes you think and feel differently. It makes you value every penny that you spend. The kind of cost side of the business becomes, it comes into kind of sharp relief. So I think maybe kind of looking at whether your remuneration models for employees are kind of fit for purpose, and then sort of, the stuff around the edges, really understanding how kind of the people in their kind of early 20s or mid-20s who are, that kind of talent level, I guess, is the hardest one to attract and retain. What kind of stuff are they interested in, and what kind of pressures are they under? And certainly in London, it's all about kind of housing and worried about getting on the housing ladder. Are there some more creative things that employers can do around helping kind of people of that generation, get on the housing ladder? Justy, really, really supportive employer. We've run sessions on we brought in these kind of mental health first aiders, and have sessions on kind of how to deal with stress in a kind of real, a real sort of way. So I just think it's incumbent on every employer, but also every kind of team manager or team leader, departmental leader, to kind of just, our business is about understanding audiences, and this is a kind of an audience group of our talent. So what makes them tick? What do they want? What do they need? And then we're going to try and kind of figure out how to best serve them.
But do you think clients have a responsibility, because I'm going to get accosted afterwards from agencies saying, well, why didn't you ask this question? What responsibility do clients have for agencies who will be complaining about the race to the bottom, the demand on more capabilities, more servicing, less fees? What responsibility do clients have in terms of helping their partners nurture talent and obviously pay for it?
Ultimately, clients get the service they deserve, and so the quality of what you get back as a customer depends on what you put in terms of the briefing and the effort that goes into maintaining the relationship. And part of that is accessing great people. And if it is a race to the bottom and you pay bottom dollar, you know what you're kind of going to get. So that's part of the judgment you make about kind of what you pay and the kind of people that you want. And I suppose we just need to be open to more kind of honest conversations with agencies about kind of how to best serve both parties. But ultimately, the paying customer will be the one that benefits from a more engaged and energized agency team. So that seems pretty obvious to me. So
I want to go outside, I'm going to get the view, well, so agencies now are on the same level as outsourced finance, outsourced HR and company secretaries. But actually but on a more serious note, how far can this insourcing go? Will it be creative? Is it strategic planning? Is it corpus planning? How far can this go?
I think that just depends on the
business.
On the business, I don't think there's any sort of rules anymore. So I just think it's going to be, I don't think there's a kind of a sweeping thing. I mean, for us, I'm not anticipating going kind of particularly much further. I think we'll always want to value and need external, people to come in and just challenge us and bring great ideas. In fact, I think personally for Just Eat, my view is that we've probably relied a bit too much on ourselves for the strategy and the stimulus and the creativity, and relied too much on outsource to do the execution. And actually, I want to a certain extent, kind of flip that. I want external challenge and stimulus on kind of strategic and creative, and kind of the big way, helping to understand how we compete against irrational competitors, and kind of big stuff that we can't really deal with on our own. But there might be some parts of the actual kind of execution of media and advertising that actually it makes sense and is rational for us to do kind of ourselves. But that balance, I guess, will be different for each different kind of company. But I just don't think there's any kind of hard and fast rules anymore. So that's sort of, to use a horrible phrase, the new normal.
The new normal.
Yeah.
Weeks, not months, or years, indeed. Just moving on again from another finding from our research was talking about measurement. Now, I know it's really it's a really dull topic, but it's a really important one. And for a business like you that lives and breathes stats, most of the respondents in our research were viscerally critical of the measurement systems as they are today. What if you had one wish, if you could change something in that area, what would it be?
It's not really a huge kind of. I don't think there's kind of one wish that would make kind of everything
better.
Great. I suppose our way of looking at things, or we try to look at things. So part of working in squads, it's a new phrase to me coming to Just Eat, is this objective and key results, OKR. So this is kind of like a kind of seems to be quite a kind of common thing in kind of the tech sector. So that's essentially, for a squad or a kind of collaborative team, you have an overall kind of mission or goal, and then 3 or 4 or 5 kind of key things that you need to try and shift, and that's all been informed by some really kind of smart analytics kind of in the back end. And so honestly, everything else sort of doesn't really matter as long as we can move the dial on 2 or 3 things from here to here. That will get to our kind of overall kind of goals. So we're just trying to be a bit more, I guess, kind of trying to break down those silos, because every silo in the business has got their own kind of channel-specific kind of metrics, whether it's on, kind of server uptime or product, page loading speed in the product and tech side. So it's sort of nonsensical to have all these KPIs, because it's very easy for you to kind of go off into your tangent. So we're just trying to kind of bring things together, and that seems to be working relatively well. I guess my overall kind of metric is, and there isn't really a kind of a hard like number around it or KPIs, just speed of delivery, not of like our food delivery, which is already very fast, obviously, but speed of just getting customer and commercial stuff done out there with customers just has to be, that's the biggest thing. So instead of talking about what are we going to do this quarter or next quarter, we need to, we're trying to say, okay, if we can deliver something next quarter, what can we change or reprocess or stop doing, or what decisions, trade-offs we have to make to enable us to do that at the end of this quarter. And then once we've got that, how do we then try and shave weeks off that, and then days, and then sometimes down to hours. So in our world, things are moving so quickly that you kind of need to have just a slightly warped sense of time, and then speed of just getting stuff done for customers is like incredibly important. So as you'll be aware with our process on the pitch, which to us felt incredibly slow. I know it might have felt quite quick, but it felt to us incredibly kind of slow. And so yeah, it's just speed really. And then I think the other big thing that we look at, or I look at, is employee NPS. So the kind of foundation of any success, long or short term, is kind of engaged and up for it kind of people really. So really understanding what makes the kind of the team tick, and what can we do to try and unlock kind of better engagement. Those 2 things for me are the kind of the big kind of KPIs that I try and get everything focused on.
Well, I'm going to give you one more question. They're going to open it up to the floor, because our time is nearly up. But talking about speed, talking about agility, talking about fast, doing things fast even when they might appear otherwise. lots has been said about the demise of holding companies. They're too slow, they're too cumbersome, they don't work. I know it wasn't designed this way, but you've ended up with your core creative and media capabilities in one holding company.
Yeah.
What message, what learnings do you think there is for other people in the room who might be thinking about either a holding company or a best-in-breed approach from your experience of where you have it ended up?
I think for us it was absolutely, we just wanted best in breed.
Yeah.
And the fact that they ended up both being part of IPG was like fine, but it's not a driving force. And I would not go into anything like this again with that as the kind of the priority for the outcome of the process. So for us, as I said at the beginning, it was all about kind of cultural fit and making sure that that consistency of operation around the world worked with us in the way that we like to work. And if that so happens that it's part of the same group, then well done that group. But that may not be right for another kind of style of company, I guess. So yeah, it wasn't a prerequisite. It wasn't a particularly kind of, it wasn't on our agenda at all. And honestly, in my experience, agencies who work for the same holding company don't necessarily make the best kind of bedfellows. So we're going to have to kind of figure out how we make that work. But I don't think it's a big deal, frankly.
Go for your best. I think your advice is if fast. I mean, you haven't said this, but fast, good, cheap is critical.
Yeah, you're right. I didn't say that. Cultural fit. Cultural fit is the main thing. You know, we need to work with these people day in, day out. They need to like us. We need to like them. It needs to be they need to feel like they can be part of those 9 a.m. daily squad, those daily huddles, and then go off and execute within the next kind of 24 hours. So that is far more important than what holding company they work for. So yeah, I would always go for sort of best of breed and then assume that most people kind of can work respectfully together.
Thank you.
Thank
I'm
you.
going to open it up to the floor now. If anybody, we've got a couple of minutes left, which we said we would do. We promised Jeremy we would. So if anybody's got any, straight away, there's one there.
Hi, Ian.
Hello.
I'm interested in your point going back a few minutes about your engineering team essentially coding a solution for PPC. Do you think that was that driven by the ability to do that because you're a tech company, so you have the talent in-house to be able to facilitate that? Mm-hmm. Or rather, was it sort of a part of a wider strategic intent that you want to control as much process and whether that's media or anything else, finance or anything? So what was the driver?
Honestly, it was a guy who, as engineers do, wasn't even working in marketing, and he's been at Just Eat for quite a long time, and it was a side project. That's what engineers do in these kind of companies. They find interesting side projects and they try to solve problems for their own kind of enjoyment, actually. And so the part of the problem we've got is that it has been all this knowledge and capability. He's written the code base in his own slightly kind of odd sort of style, and a lot of knowledge is in his head. So we're trying to figure out a way of kind of downloading that onto something that's slightly more sort of sustainable if he was to leave. But no, that wasn't. I'd love to be able to say that it was a big strategic, well thought out thing, but it was. That's the difference in working with a tech-first company, and I'm sure that the guys at Spotify or others would kind of appreciate that you just get these bubbles of interesting work coming up from just engineers who see a problem and lock themselves away in a room for a couple of weeks and come out with this amazing tool that just does everything you want it to do, and it's sort of basically for free. It's great.
I bet many people would like one of those. Anybody
We're
else?
open to offers.
Pardon?
We're open to offers.
Anybody else got anything? Oh, sorry.
Thank you. Ian, you've described Martin with Cross Media. You've described that you're looking for your media team to bring speed and to overcome their silos and to make sure it's not an either or between branding, performance. I get all of that, but can you, as a sort of modern day marketer, and I'm sure you consider media sort of a driver for growth, can you describe sort of what kind of media impresses you, or even what you're looking for in your media solution as an outcome?
Wow, that's a big question. So if I go back to the pitch process, one of the things we were looking for was the ability for an agency to understand how to take our first-party data and transform that into brilliant media planning. So sort of bring what they're great at, which is understanding the complex world of media and media planning and buying, but then being able to bridge the gap with our super smart data engineers and data scientists who know everything about our customers and our database, but don't get media. So we wanted the agency to kind of be the bridge. And whatever the output of that might be, we'll have to see. We haven't even started working with yet. But that was one of the big tests in the pitch process along the way, was just figuring out, we engineered, set up interviews between our data engineers and our insight team and our data scientists and the pitching agencies. And actually the feedback from our data teams were really instructive in kind of who we ended up kind of going with, because we felt that they had the best ability to kind of understand the power of first-party data as opposed to second or third-party data, and how to then influence media planning now, but also like in the future when stuff becomes much more addressable. So yeah, I hope that, I don't have a kind of a definite answer in terms of it was this or that in terms of the final media plan, but the ability to get and appreciate the value of our first-party data and kind of combine it with sort of old-fashioned media planning skills was really important. And whatever the outcomes will be, right? That's what they're there to tell us. They're the experts. Hopefully.
I think that's it.
Cool.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
You go.
Graham and Ian, thank you very much. Let's
Thank
hear it for
you.
these guys. Thank you. Much appreciated.